In 2025, the Russian army was moving across the fields of Ukraine in search of their next target. Ivan, a young soldier, was dreading his time in the war. He'd been drafted, and after some brief training, deployed with his troop of equally scared comrades into the bloodbath of Ukraine. All he can think about is returning home. Suddenly, movement stops. The members of his squadron hear a strange buzzing sound. Then, from the sky, comes their worst nightmare. It's an infamous kamikaze drone, known for diving fast and destroying targets. On its side is a single word: Anduril. Today, we're going to be exploring Anduril and how its futuristic weaponry has fundamentally changed the US defense industry. To truly understand the story of Anduril, we have to start with a teenager in California who loved tinkering with gadgets in his garage. His name was Palmer Luckey, and this wasn't a normal teenager. By the time he was in high school, he was building railguns, Tesla coils, and lasers in his parents' garage. Then, when he was 16, he built his first VR headset. The tech became his new passion, and Luckey used this prototype to found his first company, Oculus. Just a few years later, Palmer sold Oculus to Facebook in a deal worth $2 billion. He was just 21 years old. Luckey worked at Facebook for several years before leaving under controversial circumstances.
Well, everyone's got a different story, but it boils down to I gave $9,000 to a political group that was for Donald Trump and against Hillary Clinton. I was fired at the height of my career. My gears were ground, and I really wanted to prove that I was somebody, that I was not a one-hit wonder, and that I still had it in me to do big things.
He decided to take his hardware expertise and Silicon Valley efficiency and apply them to one of the most slow-moving and bureaucratic industries in America, the defense industry. Here's the problem Luckey saw. Modern militaries don't suffer from a lack of weapons, they suffer from data overload. Modern militaries are flooded with sensors, drones, and machines gathering data, but humans become overwhelmed trying to analyze that much information. Luckey wanted to close the gap between the machine speed of collecting information and the human speed of analyzing it. He thought that traditional defense contractors like Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and others were too focused on building stronger weapons instead of building smarter ones.
And when I left Oculus, it was more apparent than ever that the traditional defense contractors, who were really good at building things like better fighter jets, bigger submarines, bigger aircraft carriers, were not well equipped to build the technology that was going to matter for the future of warfare, particularly autonomous systems, artificial intelligence, and human-computer interaction and transhumanism.
So, in 2017, he partnered with former Palantir executives to found Anduril. The name comes from the mythical sword from Lord of the Rings, meaning Flame of the West, a not-so-subtle message about competing with rising military powers like China. Anduril had a billionaire leading the company and the expertise of industry veterans behind it. What could go wrong? Well, their first product was a total failure. In 2018, Anduril partnered with Mythbusters host Jamie Hyneman to build an autonomous tank for fighting wildfires. It sounded like a good idea. Keep firefighters out of danger and let robots do the dirty work. However, the project stalled due to a lack of interested buyers and major technical issues. But their first home run was right around the corner. During Donald Trump's first term in office, his proposed border wall was a major talking point. Luckey decided that, instead of building a physical wall, Anduril could develop a cheaper and more effective digital wall. Anduril developed Sentry, a 33-foot surveillance tower that used thermal imaging to detect humans. It was a huge success. In the first 10 weeks of testing, Sentry led to 55 arrests and nearly 1,000 pounds of illegal substances seized by officers. Government officials were impressed and awarded Anduril a $250 million contract to expand the Sentry program. But Sentry is far from the craziest product Anduril builds today. The most important product that Anduril offers isn't a weapon, it's software. Lattice is Anduril's AI-powered operating system. It connects weapons, sensors, and drones and feeds their data into a unified battlefield view, either for humans to make decisions or for machines to act autonomously. Lattice is used to analyze massive volumes of battlefield data in real time, giving humans a clear overview of the most important information so that time can be used to make strategic decisions instead of drowning in data. Lattice is the brain behind all of Anduril's tech. And this is where Anduril fundamentally breaks from traditional defense contractors like Lockheed and Northrop. For decades, the defense industry has been hardware first, focusing on huge weapons and adding software as an afterthought. Anduril built their software first, and then designed the hardware around it. Instead of selling one-off, billion-dollar jets on long, cost-plus government contracts, Anduril develops products internally, iterates quickly, and then sells finished systems more like a Silicon Valley startup than a traditional defense company. But software isn't what Anduril is best known for. It's known for its futuristic weapons that look straight out of a science fiction movie. In the sea, Anduril builds and deploys its Dive LD and Dive XL submarines. They're fully autonomous and fully powered by Lattice. They're capable of doing dangerous underwater surveying and deploying underwater sentries for further surveillance. There's also Copperhead, a high-speed underwater device that acts as a next-generation precision torpedo. For traditional contractors, autonomous submarines would likely be a billion-dollar specialty program. For Anduril, they're modular, software-driven extensions of their core operating system. On land, Anduril has the Roadrunner, reusable autonomous air vehicles with two main purposes: deliver payloads or destroy aerial threats. Roadrunner can accelerate, pivot, and intercept faster than a human operator could ever respond. Plus, it's reusable. Traditional missile defense systems fire once and are gone. Roadrunner lands, reloads, and flies again, dramatically changing the cost equation for air defense. Ghost is Anduril's surveillance drone. It's highly customizable and can be used to detect threats from nearly anywhere. Instead of just selling the drone, Anduril also sells the data layer, meaning the long-term value isn't in the drone itself, but the software subscriptions and network behind it. In the air, Anduril built Fury, a fully autonomous fighter jet designed to operate without a pilot on board. It can move faster, make more extreme maneuvers, and fly over dangerous territory, all thanks to Lattice. While traditional fighter programs can take decades and hundreds of billions of dollars to develop, Anduril is betting that smaller, autonomous aircrafts built in high volumes will define the next era of air combat. But Anduril's most terrifying product has to be Altius, their kamikaze drone. Altius is designed to be launched from air, land, or sea with one goal in mind: find a target and make it disappear. These drones have been used by the Ukraine army to destroy Russian military equipment with varying success. Instead of a handful of massive, billion-dollar machines dominating the battlefield, Anduril believes that warfare is moving towards a swarm of cheaper, software-driven autonomous systems. If that model wins, it not only changes how wars are fought, it changes who wins defense contracts. And somehow, Anduril's future plans are even bigger. In order to increase their output of advanced weapons, Anduril needed to massively boost their manufacturing capabilities. And in a move almost no one expected, Anduril chose Columbus, Ohio, not Silicon Valley, as the future heart of its manufacturing empire. They're investing $1 billion to create a hyper-efficient, modern factory to churn out some of the most high-tech weapons ever made. And investors can't get enough. Anduril most recently raised $2.5 billion at a $30 billion valuation to help fund the construction of its new factory. If that wasn't crazy enough, they're currently in talks with investors to raise a whopping $8 billion at a $60 billion valuation. That makes Anduril one of the most valuable startups in history. And it's not just venture capitalists interested in the new era of defense. Wall Street investors like Morgan Stanley and Fidelity are putting their dollars behind Luckey's ambitious vision. And there's still one final frontier that Anduril hopes to conquer: space. Although not much is known about their space operations, Anduril hopes to launch observation satellites and build payload infrastructure to help further power its Lattice network. Public partnerships with Argos Space, Apex Space, and Impulse Space have further improved investors' outlook on Anduril. The traditional defense giants should be taking notes. For decades, war was dominated by brute force. Bigger bombs, bigger budgets, and bigger armies. But Anduril is betting that the future of warfare isn't about size, it's about software. And somewhere on a battlefield, when a soldier hears a faint buzzing in the sky, that future is already here. Thank you to Nick Steigar for suggesting today's topic. If you enjoy learning about the intersection of business and tech, please subscribe and check out our next video.